The conference room erupted into chaos as department heads pointed accusatory fingers at the trembling man in the janitor's uniform, his calloused hands clutching a mop handle like a lifeline while his 7-year-old daughter's school photo peeked from his shirt pocket. Marcus Chen stood frozen in the doorway, his expensive suit a stark contrast to David Sullivan's worn work clothes, watching as his own executives tore into a man whose only crime was being in the wrong place, when someone decided they needed a scapegoat for the missing $300,000 that had vanished from the company accounts overnight. If you believe that kindness and truth matter more than status and power, please hit that like button, drop a comment sharing your thoughts, and subscribe to this channel. Your support helps us share more stories that remind us of our shared humanity. Marcus had built Richardson Tech from nothing, sleeping in his car during those early startup days, knowing intimately what it felt like to be invisible, to be dismissed, to have people look through you rather than at you. Now, watching David's eyes glisten with unshed tears as the chief financial officer demanded he empty his pockets right there in front of everyone, Marcus felt something ancient and protective rise in his chest. He had seen David around the building for months, always arriving before dawn, always staying late, his movements efficient and quiet, the kind of invisible excellence that kept the world running while others took the credit. Marcus had once watched him pause his floor cleaning to help a young intern pick up scattered papers, offering words of encouragement about her presentation, with a gentleness that spoke of deep reservoirs of kindness. The CFO, Gregory Palmer, was practically spitting with rage. His face flushed as he insisted that building security footage showed David's keycard accessing the executive floor at 2 a.m, right when the digital transfers had been initiated. David's voice cracked as he tried to explain that he always cleaned the executive offices during those hours, that it was literally his job, that he needed this position because his daughter Emma had medical bills from her ongoing treatment for juvenile diabetes, and without this income and the health insurance it provided, he didn't know how he would manage. But Palmer cut him off with a dismissive wave, already calling building security to escort David out, already talking about pressing charges, already treating this gentle man like he was guilty before anyone had bothered to investigate the actual truth. Marcus stepped forward, his voice cutting through the room with quiet authority that made everyone fall silent. He had learned long ago that real power whispered while insecurity shouted, and right now, he needed everyone to hear what he had discovered during his sleepless night reviewing security protocols after being alerted to the missing funds. He had spent hours going through access logs, financial records, and surveillance footage, following a nagging instinct that something about this situation felt orchestrated, too convenient, too perfectly pointing at the most vulnerable person in the building. What he found had made his blood run cold. The security footage showed David cleaning as he always did, but there was another recording, one that had been carefully edited and time-stamped differently in the official logs. Marcus had found the original files buried in the backup servers, and they told a completely different story. They showed Gregory Palmer himself at his computer at 1:45 that morning, his fingers flying across the keyboard, transferring funds to an offshore account before deliberately cloning David's keycard access signature to make it appear the janitor had been present during the theft. Palmer had been embezzling money for months through increasingly sophisticated schemes, but this time he had gotten greedy, taking much too quickly, and he needed someone to blame before the annual audit exposed everything. The room transformed from a kangaroo court into stunned silence as Marcus displayed the evidence on the conference room screen, showing not just the $300,000 from last night, but a trail of smaller thefts totaling over $1.2 million across 18 months. Palmer's face went from red to ashen gray, his expensive watch suddenly looking more like handcuffs as 2 security officers who had accompanied the CEO stepped forward to detain him. David stood there shaking, tears finally spilling down his weathered cheeks, not just from relief, but from the overwhelming recognition that someone with power had chosen to stand beside him instead of stepping on him to reach higher ground. If this story touched your heart and reminded you that we should never judge someone by their appearance or position, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment telling us about a time someone stood up for you or you stood up for someone else, and share this story with others who need to hear it today. Marcus approached David after Palmer had been escorted away, and the other executives had filed out, offering not just his sincere apology for what had happened, but a new position in the company's operations management training program, because anyone who showed David's dedication and character deserved an opportunity to build something better. David's hands trembled as they shook, his voice barely a whisper as he thanked Marcus and mentioned he just needed to call his daughter's school to let them know he wasn't going to lose his insurance after all, that her insulin pump supplies would still be covered, that everything was going to be okay. Please take a moment to comment below about how this story made you feel, and tell us what act of kindness you'll commit this week, in honor of David's courage and Marcus's integrity. 6 months later, David Sullivan walked through those same office halls, but this time wearing business casual clothes and carrying reports for the operational efficiency improvements he had designed, his intimate knowledge of how the building actually functioned from the ground up making him invaluable in ways the executives with their fancy degrees had never imagined. His daughter Emma was thriving, her diabetes well managed, and she had started a kindness club at her elementary school inspired by her father's story of the day a powerful man chose truth over convenience. Marcus kept David's old janitor uniform in his office as a reminder that greatness wears many disguises, and that the measure of a leader is not how they treat those who can do something for them, but how they protect those who have everything to lose. The real crime that day wasn't the stolen money, but the ease with which people were willing to destroy an innocent man to protect their comfortable assumptions about who deserves dignity and who deserves suspicion.